What's good, YouTube? This your boy Derek Branch here, SportsView360.com. Today we're going to cover some college football in the SEC. We got a huge matchup this week. As a matter of fact, we have two huge matchups this week in the Southeastern Conference. You got, of course, the big one, the really big one, Alabama versus Georgia, which is the rematch from last year's close game where Georgia almost came back and won, but Ryan Williams touchdown pretty much sealed the form. And the one we're talking about right now, LSU heading down to Oxford to take on the Ole Miss Rebels. Now, this game is similar to Alabama in Georgia. This is a rematch from last year where Ole Miss will be looking for payback because if you recall, this is a game where kind of like things started to like spiral out of control for the Rebels in regards to SEC championship appearance, the college football playoffs. This is where it pretty much started. And the past couple of years, several years, the Rebels have been on the doorsteps of trying to get into the CFP. They've gotten into at the time the New Year's Six. That was set up, that structure was set up, but has not gotten into the college football playoffs despite their talent. Now, the last couple of years between LSU and Ole Miss has been really good. 2 years ago when Jay Daniels was starting QB, they had a really close game down in Oxford where Ole Miss won, and that was a year where LSU had one of the worst defenses in college football, one of the worst defenses in program history and SEC history. That was that team where Jay Daniels won the Heisman. But that was a close game where Ole Miss won. The following year, which was last year, LSU got their revenge down in Death Valley. Now, you go to Ole Miss and out in Oxford, and we see how things play out. Can this be a game? One question for LSU, my biggest question for the Tigers is, can this be a game where we can finally see their offense, on full display? The offense that everybody talked about in the offseason. The offense that everybody talked about during fall camp, where a lot of money was invested on that side of the football. You could say that the offense had a breakout performance last week against Southeastern, but that's Southeastern, bro. You know what I mean? That's Southeastern. You about to play an SEC opponent in the Ole Miss Rebels, one of a top SEC opponent in the conference that can score points. Can your offense affect Ole Miss's defense that has not look up the par in these last couple of weeks? They had the bad that they hung on to beat the Arkansas Razorbacks and had a close game against Kentucky. So can LSU come in and finish the job that those other two programs could not do against the Rebels? You know what I mean? Excuse me. Because the close games that the Ole Miss Rebels have been in this year have been against SEC opponents. Last week against Tulane, they blew out the Green Wave by a score of 45-10. 45-10. And a lot of people felt as though Tulane had a shot of pulling up the upset. But Ole Miss showed you that there's levels to the stuff in college football. There's levels to facing SEC teams. But for LSU, like I said, it's just a game where we see your offense really break out. There have been reports about Gary Nussmeier's health as a quarterback right now. I think he's going to be okay. I think he's going to be okay for this matchup. I think they're going to have a lot of opportunities, some favorable matchups out there where they can put a lot of stress on this Rebels defense that has looked a little shaky in my opinion, against the SEC teams this year so far. So that's my key matchup to watch with this game for LSU. LSU offense against I think a shaky Ole Miss defense. As for the Rebels, once again, they have really good quarterback play. Last 2 years, it was Jackson Dart, for first round draft pick. This year, Austin Simmons, unfortunately, has not played since the injury, but he was looking really good. But now you got your new quarterback, Trinidad Chambers, in the game. We had a huge performance against Arkansas and Tulane last week. Last week against Tulane, threw for over 300 yards through the air, had 100 yards rushing on the ground. So he can play, and I think chances are slim that Austin Simmons gets the starting job back. I think it's going to be the Chambers show from now going forward. Can Lane Kiffin identify favorable matchups in that LSU defense and come out on top? That's my question for the Rebels. My matchup, as well. Because if anything, that LSU defense, that's like the biggest positive from that team, right now, is that LSU defense and how strong they have looked over the weeks. They've had a really good game against Clemson, where they opened up the season. Against Louisiana Tech, offense came out sluggish, defense took care of business. Against Florida, pretty much the same type of outcome. Offense not looking up to par, defense took care of business. I believe they forced DJ Lagway to throw him 5 interceptions against him. So that's a really good defense. That could be a tall order for a young quarterback like Chambers to come into. Facing a veteran LSU defense that has multiple playmakers on it, and possibly multiple first-round picks on it as well. Harold Perkins, Mason Delaney, Patrick Payton, just playmakers all over. Kind of reminds me of those teams that were on the Les Miles, where defense was really stout, elite guys all over, multiple first rounders, but the offense was kind of like suspect, even though they got blue chippers all over the field. So if Lane Kiffin can stress out that LSU defense, I think chances are high that they'll win this game, in my opinion. Because Kiffin is a master play caller, a really good play caller, knows how to put quarterbacks in position to succeed. But this is a different animal in LSU defense right now. And this is the best that defense has looked in years. Because kind of like when Brian Kelly took over, they had a talent on the defense, man, but it was just, wasn't showing on the field, But now you got Brett Baker there now, DC second year, and that system he's implementing is fully ingratiated, So a lot of storylines for this matchup, a lot of playoff possibilities going forward, because if Ole Miss beats LSU, they have a very favorable schedule to close out the year. You know what I'm saying? It could easily get to 6-0 at most right now. If they get through the Tigers this week down at Hemingway Stadium, But with that being said, my score prediction for this matchup, I got LSU winning this game by a score of, I would say, I think they'll put up 38 points on the Rebels. 38 points, 38-27 over Ole Miss. And, I think they'll win this game. I just think that the physicality of LSU, the the defense, personnel on offense. I think we're finally going to get that game where the LSU offense, puts everything together against a marquee opponent. Unlike what you didn't see in the Florida matchup and even in the Clemson matchup. I think this is the breakout game for the offense. So I got LSU winning by a score of 38-27 over Ole Miss. So let me know in the comment section below, what do you think the score prediction is going to be? Who you have winning Saturday's game between the LSU Tigers and the Ole Miss Rebels? Please subscribe to the channel and check out my college football playlist for my latest college football content. I'm out.